Infrastructure and Projects Committee meeting for today, the 2nd of September. Welcome to those who are joining us on live stream, and we do have a quorum. We don't have any apologies. Declarations of interest in relation to our agenda today. Anyone have any conflicts? No, there's none. Thank you. We don't have any public forum, so we'll move to tab 4, which is the minutes of the WasteNet Advisory meeting held on the 16th of June. So
yeah, I'll move that, Chair.
Thank you, Ringy.
Look, I'll just make a quick comment. It's quite self-explanatory, and the bin inspections are going well. But before this, the Chair rightfully raised the issue of the green bin, and we see that as something that's going to come in the next term. What may work for ICC may not be the answer for Southern District, because it's a different model, as well as not all ICC ratepayers need the service. So, and unfortunately, the current green bin model that's been thrown around has the green waste going to Dunedin, so that's not practical. So there's a bit of work to be done. So whoever's around next term, you'll no doubt see this pop up.
Can I get a seconder before we discuss that any further? Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Leslie. Is there any other discussions or comment on that? I had a couple which I've just flagged, and it probably is to yourself, Frankie, being you attended. So if you go to page 3 of the report, I think it's page 2 of Board Books, just the goals and targets and conditions performance indicators. So you're comfortable that those align with where we need to be from our council's perspective?
Yeah, it's. I've been on WasteNet 15 years now, and you're fighting figures that government have set legislation. They don't want you releasing emissions. You don't want you doing this, and you've got to be doing this, and it's a real balancing act. So it's not easy, but I believe where we are at the moment, and the forthcoming cost-neutral glass bin, because we will price that as cost neutral, that will take us another step further forward. Yeah, and then you'll see a new set of figures, obviously, with contaminations and stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a tricky environment, all right. So, look, thank you for that. We've got to move in a second, and no final questions. Okay, all those in favour of receiving those minutes?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, the minutes of the WasteNet Advisory Group meeting for the 31st of July. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Barry and Ringy, thank you. Any discussion? No, there's none. Those in favour of?
Aye.
Against? Carried. That's receiving those. The minutes of the Infrastructure and Projects Committee meeting, noting that the recommendations have already been through council, so it's Leslie, thanks. Pania, any questions or points? No, there being none. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, item 7, which is the road closure of East Street for the food market. So, Doug.
Kia ora. Vicious, do you want to be chair? Move the recommendations. Nothing new in this.
I'm always keen to hear what Doug's got to say about these matters.
Let's go, Doug.
Thank you, Chair. Very flattering. These are the same as last year. So these are the same ones we have. There's a number of them here. Great South East Street Food Market on the 27th of September. Again, Great South, 22nd of November, the Don Street Food Market. So we have 2 this year, which is great. The Christmas Market on East Street, 6th of December, again. Apologies, there's quite a few. The New Year's Eve activation. And finally,
Yeah, do you want to take items 7, 8, 9 and 10 together?
Yeah, I'll take them all together, yeah.
Happy.
Yep.
and Burt Munro. The Burt Munro Challenge again.
Burt Munro's separately. But
Do that separately?
Yeah, I'll take that separately. So take the yeah, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and Darren will move that way and Leslie second.
Second.
Yep, so any discussion or points people want to raise on those items, not the Burt Munro one, but all the others ringing?
Look, I might be speaking greatly out of turn in my household, but I don't see the hour closure for Tay Street for the Santa Parade.
The Tay Street?
Yeah, because it goes up and around the War Memorial, and then part of Tay Street is going to be
So we'll have to work through.
closed.
I don't think the Santa Parade's not there, it's the Christmas market.
Yeah, no, I just thought, well, it seems to be a shotgun approach, so.
That is
But
yet
it hasn't come through to us.
Possibly
that's
hasn't been
correct,
applied
Chair.
for.
Yeah, so it hasn't been applied for, so yeah.
I think it has, but never mind.
Yep, Michael?
Through yourself, Chair, that's a state highway item in relation to the Christmas
Right,
parade, not a council road.
yeah, because I know it's been applied for, yeah. Sorry, Doug.
So it's in process, I'd say, and
Sorry,
it's just working
state
its way
highway.
through. Yeah, thank you.
Through you, sorry.
Yep, go Doug.
Through you, Chair, the Christmas parade is in the works at the moment. We're just going through some due diligence, but it hasn't reached us formally
Yeah.
yet.
Thank you for clarifying that. Trish, did you have a question about this?
Yes, just can we check that they're not on the same day? And perhaps the market could be changed or the Santa Parade could be changed?
Nothing to
They're
do with
different
us.
things.
No.
Well, if it's lodged, if the one's lodged with someone and this is lodged here, it would be, we don't want to have two things on the same day.
Actually, you do. Right, into market.
But I think that's, so, okay, well,
That's fine,
yeah.
either way.
So that's where we would look to Great South. I mean, Great
Becomes
South,
a great long event.
yeah. So great, just when you're ready, thanks. So yeah, Great South would cover that, so let's just leave that there. Yeah. You want to raise? No? Okay, so I've got a mover and seconder. All those in favour of the submitted papers on the road closure for S Street, for Don Street, for the Christmas market, and for the New Year activation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, item 11, which is the road closure for Burt Munro.
Again, much similar to last year, there are two road closures in this application. One for the Bluff Hill climb and the other one for the Areti Beach race. We're comfortable with the process we followed and the impact.
Thanks, Barry. Any questions or? Barry's moving, seconder. Thanks, Darren. Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12. So the speed review and road traffic bylaw hearing and deliberation. So we had the submissions this morning, and thank you to those submitters. We've received a number of submissions online, and we've also taken consideration of submissions that have come via social media, and the staff have compiled them, and thanks to the staff who have worked through that process. That's very important and valuable. So, Rhiannon.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just provide a few brief points on the process and an update to the report, and then Grant is going to speak to the detail on the specific roads for you. So just a reminder, we adopted this for consultation about 2 months ago now, at previous infrastructure and projects meeting. The consultation was focusing on 3 specific roads. There was a large-scale speed review back in 2022, at which point speed principles were adopted and change made to a number of roads across the district, which was recorded in the current version of the roading and traffic bylaw. Since then, in 2024, the government has changed the rules on the way that speed limits are set. So we are able to still include those speed limits within the bylaw, but that is now a supplementary rather than the primary procedural method, which is the speed limits register, which is held by NZTA. So all the way through this process, we've been working with the NZTA team and just taking their advice, because it is a new process to councils around the country in terms of those speed reviews. So the information that we have been providing to the community, primarily through Let's Talk, but through all our other channels, has been in line with those requirements for the 2024 speed review process. The report details all the submissions received. There were a large number of submissions, a lot of good quality submissions that hopefully will help inform your decision making. I'm not going to speak to the specifics of the content of those submissions. Those are included in the detail in the report. A lot of substantive issues were raised. I will just speak to the point raised by one submitter, Mr. Tribe, who spoke today around the detail of Macquarie Street and the consultation information that was provided to the public for that issue. So he's absolutely correct. There was an error made in terms of the specifics on that road. We have sought NZTA advice, and having looked at all the information that we provided and the substantive consultation feedback received, they are confident to provide forward your decision today, whatever that may be, to the Director of NZTA, which is the next stage for actually adopting those road speeds. It is clear from the way that the consultation was undertaken that the intention was to reduce the speed from 80 to 60. The inaccuracy was just in that specific area of the road towards the end of Chesney Street. So I want to clarify now that there is not an intention to change the 50 zone of that street to 60. The intention was to make the speed limit in the 80 zone change to 60. So we as a team will just apologise for that inaccuracy of the information. I think, though, that my advice to you all in making this decision is if when you read those submissions in detail, you can see the good debate and discussions being drawn out about the importance of maintaining lower speed limits within residential areas, which is that end block of Macquarie Street next to Chesney Road, Chesney Street. Get that wrong. It is about 5 property areas. That is the built-up area. There is no intention, just to clarify again, to change the speed limits for that area. So following your decision, whichever way you go today, we will complete that process with NZTA, and that is through the speed register. So the recommendations that have been provided to you are recommendations based on having read all of the submissions and the consultation feedback, as well as all the engineering and all the guidance advice that's gone into the proposal to start with. So happy to take any questions on the process, perhaps after Grant has just gone through the detail on the roads themselves.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ren. I think you've covered off the process and acknowledged the error, but equally it's reassuring to know that, NZTA, and I think it reflects well that it's clear and obvious through the submissions that they've picked up the intent of what we're trying to achieve and, provided that feedback. So I'm comfortable, as is NZTA. Grant.
Thanks, Chair. So really what I wanted to do now was just provide a bit of a highlights package around the report that you've got in front of you. So essentially we're looking at speed limit changes across 4 roads in our network in 3 separate locations. We've got Curran Road, Macquarie Street, and around Inverary, so that's Retreat Road and Bainfield Road. Curran Road's classified as a rural connector, so very rural in nature, and we're proposing increasing the speed limit to 80 km an hour on Curran Road. Looking through the submissions, there seems to be pretty broad support for increasing that speed limit, and it feels like it's right for the speed environment and the roadside hazards and that sort of thing from an engineering perspective. Macquarie Street's classified as a peri-urban road. Now I've just brought up for the committee's understanding today what a peri-urban road is actually classified as, or sorry, defined as. So it's a road that primarily provides access from residential property on the urban fringe or in a rural residential area where the predominant land use is residential, but usually at lower density than urban residential locations. So that's really how we've approached looking at the speed limit on Macquarie Street. Again, reiterating that the predominant land use is residential in nature. So in that regard, and taking into account things like roadside hazards, road widths and that sort of thing, we've proposed to reduce the speed limit on the 80 km an hour section to 60 km an hour. Retreat Road and Bainfield Road, really this is in response to changing land use. The land use has gone from very much rural in nature to residential in nature around that block. More specifically in regard to the Inverurie subdivision development, which I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with around the table here. And for both of those roads, with the change in land use and the expectations that we'll be seeing more residential style interaction between the road and private property, increase in active road users, etc. The appropriate speed we feel for those roads is 50 km an hour, taking into account guidance principles. In terms of other feedback we received, we did note there were quite a number of submissions in regard to TY Road and to Gorge Road. In reviewing those submissions and reviewing the decisions that were made when they were last reduced from 100 km an hour to 80 km an hour, we feel that those roads still meet the speed limit principles that were adopted in 2022 around retaining them at 80 km an hour. So our feeling is that we wouldn't support or want to review those being increased to 100 km an hour. I would like to draw your attention as well to page 9 of the report under other feedback. So it's the second paragraph under other feedback. I think that this is a really important one that the committee should have a good read of, and that's in relation to the crash statistics we've had since the last speed limit review, in particular around our higher speed roads. We have seen a marked and what's becoming more apparent sustained reduction in the number of crashes and the severity of crashes since we introduced our last speed limits across the network. There were a few matters that were raised in oral submissions earlier on today at the hearing. I thought I might just address some of the matters that were brought up. In Mr. Tribe's submission, he provided an image showing a 60 km an hour speed limit for an unsealed road and for a sealed road. I'd just like to reiterate that it's not only the road width or the look of the road that's important when we're setting speed limits, it's also things like the presence of active road users and the access density. There's other factors involved there. So while on the face of it, it might look as though we're treating things inconsistently, there are reasons that we use for setting speed limits. There was a submission around the lack of modelling, and this is picked up by Councillor Pottinger as well, particularly in regard to speed limit changes on Macquarie Street having potential for unintended consequences across the rest of our network. My response to that is the roads are very low volume in around that area. We undertook speed limit, speed and traffic volume counts earlier in the year, and Macquarie Street in particular was around 200 vehicles per day, which is still very low volume. A traffic model at such low traffic volumes wouldn't provide the sensitivity, in my opinion, to really add further value to wider consequences or wider effects across our network. That's not really how you would use a network model tool like that at such low volumes. Look, that's probably it for me in terms of covering the key highlights across what we're proposing and across some of the submissions that were brought up today. But happy to take any questions from the committee.
Okay. Alex, and then Rangi, and then Tom.
Thank you, Chair. Question is around the Macquarie Street one, and given that Mr Tribe came in and spoke to us this morning, the development that's going in beside the poultry farm is 19 sections. So is your recommendation around dropping it to 60k in relation to that future traffic as well as, or future traffic potential?
So if I understand correctly, this is the new development on the corner of Chesney Street. So that's within the existing 50k an hour area.
That only applies to that area?
Yes.
But
yeah. So we're not looking at changing the speed limit outside that area?
yeah, so it's 50k there now, but obviously they need to use the roads connecting to get to their houses, I suppose, and quite a lot of that traffic flow would either come from Rockdale or town end. So is that, you'd expect that road to become significantly more used because of it, right?
I wouldn't say significantly more used. I think the primary access for that site is off Chesney Street. There's a new cul-de-sac which has been built off Chesney Street. So I would expect Chesney Street to be the primary road, and a little bit further from the site you get a distributed effect of traffic, so it distributes further afield. And I think that 20 odd additional vehicle movements in the peak hour, that's going to be barely imperceptible across the wider network.
Right, thank you.
Rangi.
Thanks, Chair. Look, my question is just regarding current speed limits of connecting roads that go to Rockdale and Boundary, and they are Scott Street, Boxall Street, Stewart Street and Avon Road. What current speed are they? I'm just working on from that modelling thing that where Rodney said traffic may choose, like water flowing, a different route.
Yeah, sure. Would you mind if I pull this up? Just
yeah, if you can just tell us what speeds. I'm actually not sure. I should have.
Rockdale is 60.
Yep. So what are those connecting roads? Boxall, Stewart, Avon, Scott?
Yeah, just so I don't put you wrong, I'll actually pull up the list. I can do it right now. So which roads are you concerned about in particular?
Scott Street, Boxall Street, Stewart Street and Avon Road are the ones that run into either Boundary or Rockdale.
Oh, so they're a bit of a mix. Boxall is 60, Scott Street will be 80. Yep, Scott Street is 80.
Okay, I'm just looking at Scott Street with its houses, residential density here.
Scott Street increases as it comes further into town. So west of Chesney Street, that's 60.
Right, okay, so east of Chesney Street,
it's
80. Is it 80, did you say?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, it may, yeah. Okay, but sorry. I'll leave statements till later on. This is just questions.
Thank you. Tom?
I wondered to what extent you had considered the interrelationship between Curran Road and Otatara Road. And what I'm thinking about there is that if we change the speed limit on Curran Road to 80 but leave Otatara Road 60, then more vehicles that have a choice between the two. If you're going up Viner Road or something, you can choose Curran Road or Otatara Road, are more likely to choose Curran Road. Now, if it's got an 80 speed limit and Otatara 60. So the issue there then is that when Curran Road meets Duns Road, is actually quite a bad intersection. People are making a right turn there, and it'll throw more people, I think, to make that right turn onto Duns Road if we leave Otatara Road at 60. So the question as to whether we considered that, but I know that there are a number of submitters who've suggested that Otatara Road should also go to 80, and although I don't know whether they've thought about that, but to me, you really do want to balance those roads actually, rather than leave them unbalanced by having one at 80 and one at 60.
Yep. We did actually consider that for review, the southern section of Otatara Road, in particular, through the more developed section, but it was really for that reason that we didn't think it was appropriate to raise the speed, or to recommend raising the speed. It is more built up, a much higher density of accesses, and also higher number of roadside hazards in that location as well, so we didn't think that would be appropriate for review. But yeah, acknowledge the point around distribution of traffic. You've probably already heard from a few submitters, particularly in written submissions, around the speed that they already travel on Curran Road. So in all honesty, I don't think things are going to change too much from how people are currently using that road. There's probably a lot of people who are driving a lot faster than what the speed limit there is already. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nobby?
Yeah, just to reinforce what Tom was saying, I don't understand why we haven't considered it. Drop both to 60, and so now to have one going up to 80 will encourage extra traffic. So if you consider Bay Road that goes through Otatara Road, most of the houses, which are very sparsely populated, most of them are well back from the roads. Most of them are farms, or alternatively lifestyle blocks that are quite significant, and the houses are really well spread out, and only one bend in the road, which is up past, as you're going out towards Otatara. When you go past Curran Road, the first bend is a corner, but other than that, when you hear that Scott's Road in town, which is in an urban area, is 80, I just don't understand the rationale for having an adjoining street out there to have 60. And the other issue for me is when you turn off Duns Road as you're coming to town and you turn into Curran, that corner is very, very tight. And most of the traffic turning that way actually slows right down to about 10 k's to get round the corner. By peak traffic times, that's an issue for us if you're putting more past the road. So I guess two questions. Is it too late to consider? And if it is too late to consider Otatara Road, when's the next opportunity for a review? Is it a year away?
Yeah, I'd say it would be next year. Would be when we might look at undertaking further reviews of the network. And sorry, this was a point I meant to mention in my summary up front, was in regard to Rockdale Road, adjacent to Puawai. Through the submissions, that was raised several times, and that could well be one that we review in the future as well. It will be a bit dependent on the progression of...
Question for Rhiannon. If we haven't consulted on Otatara Road specifically as part of this public consultation, can we now make decisions on it?
No. So my advice would be that we have recorded all the roads that were raised by any submitters through this process, and in the future speed review, whenever that is chosen to be taken, and there is no specific date that would be required, though that would be the appropriate time to consider. We are required to adopt the specific roads and provide all the detailed technical information to support the consultation. That's part of the speed rules.
So similarly, if with the Gorge Road, where quite a bit of the feedback was around changing that back to what it was, which was 100, so that would fall into the same process. Yeah, we have to consult because of the legal requirements around it. Yeah, okay, thank you. Steve.
Oh, thanks, Chair. It was good to see so many submissions on this one, but I actually went for a drive too, just to be on those roads, and it's different. particularly down Retreat Road this morning, driving down that road and having an opinion based on the submissions I'd read, and then seeing some tamariki waiting for their bus with their families, made it a different experience for me, to be honest. So I pulled over and talked to some of these whānau, and they actually, the couple that I spoke to did say that they'd prefer that speed comes down, but they also referenced just how fast people are heading down Retreat Road, and I noticed it came through in the submissions a bit, as well as what part, I guess, does reviewing what is quite a skinny road in a ever expanding, and roading's not cheap, and an ever expanding development within Veriri, what part does that road play, versus also signage? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, turning onto both Retreat heading north and then even Chesney heading west, I don't think those speeds are, I know it's more signage, costly signage, but I don't think those speeds are actually re-indicated on those stretches. And so with Retreat, I didn't notice any further signage beyond Bainfield. So I guess what my question is, what part does the road versus also some improved signage in those areas that are changing, what part do they play in there? Is there an opportunity there rather than just defaulting to a speed change?
Yeah, it is a good point. We have a few options and a few levers we can pull in terms of engineering up the road to make it appropriate for the existing speed limit, or dropping the speed limit and trying to enforce that, and potentially undertaking some less invasive measures to help reduce speed. So, looking at things like threshold treatments or raised tables, that sort of thing. Retreat Road is a bit of a funny one in that it's come about because of, the changes, proposed changes come about because of land development, and sometimes capital improvement can lag land development, which is just a fact of life, unfortunately. If we were to look at significantly improving Retreat Road, I imagine it would be an annual plan / LTP type process, and start having to stick actual projects in the pipeline and have them properly funded. But in and of itself, I'd still remain of an opinion that even if we put in footpath, curb and channel widen the road, that the speed limit should still come down to 50 km an hour to be consistent with an urban environment like we have across the rest of our urban area in town.
Yeah, reiterating signage, I guess, would have been potentially reiterating that signage, I think, would have been key for me today.
Yeah. And across signage and things like threshold treatment, so that might be signage or eyelet curbing build-outs on the side of the road. That's something we're always looking to improve across our network, particularly to signify to road users that you're transitioning from a rural network to an urban situation. There's off-the-shelf designs for that sort of thing, and also repeater signs as well. So we might repeat speed limit signs around our network if it's too far from the last owner. We've had feedback from the community or the police that signage could be improved. So that's just part of our continual business as usual.
Just one more. What happened to, not just in the report, but also the bylaw, maybe I missed something, what happened to good old 70 k's an hour? Because 60 to 80 is just, it feels like that's a big jump.
Yeah, I think, it was really around the previous NZTA guidance, and also safe systems approach, that we do want to see those bigger jumps when you're transitioning from a more rural environment to a slightly urbanised or fully urban environment as well. That comes down to energy thresholds in a crash and the probability that people will be seriously injured in a crash, or if you're an active road user, a pedestrian, cyclist or otherwise, and involved in a crash, you're much more vulnerable. So 70 k an hour across the industry is very much fallen by the wayside, and it also does make our systems, the network, a bit less complex and less confusing as well. Less limits for people to try and be aware of. Cool. Thanks.
Harry?
Yeah, as far as I've got Bainfield Road here, Gorge Road and Rockdale Road. The speed limits on all these roads have been reduced right down. Is this due to accidents, or what was the reasoning why we dropped all those speed limits, especially in rural areas, like especially T.Y. Point Road is a perfect example.
Accidents, roadside hazards as well. That might be lack of sealed road shoulders, and then steep drainage ditches in close proximity to the road edge, which means that you have less ability to react to something that might happen if you cross the edge line. So really, we look at the infrastructure risk across the whole of the road, taking into account that we know that undertaking or dropping the speed limits on those roads actually has a measurable effect in terms of crashes. And again, I'd just draw your attention back to the statements in the report around the reduction in crashes that we have had across our network, which really does sort of provide a bit of proof to the pudding, so to speak.
Alan?
Just saying, talking about those percentages again, I mean, what you don't mention there is actual numbers, and so when you talk about there's like one DSI in 1 year, I mean, that's a 100% increase on the year before if there was none. So when you talk about, 35%, are you talking about one more or two more? Because at the end of the day, I mean, 1 or 2 or 3 a year is sort of got to be just a sign of the actual year, or so. It's not necessarily based on speed, if you know what I mean, at that particular time, because you're only talking there basically 2 years, between 2 years, 2022 to 2024. So, you had one in 2024, but none in 2023.
Yep.
So it's a 100% increase, but it's still not very many, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And that could happen any time, anyway, anyhow, accidentally and horribly, of course. But so we probably need a wee bit more clarity on what makes those percentages up, the actual numbers.
Yeah, I think also the thing to take into account is the reduction in overall crashes as well, because there is a much higher number of those. And so statistically, we're seeing from a larger sample pool, I suppose, for lack of a better term, that look, the overall number of crashes are absolutely decreasing. Yes, the DSIs across our network, in particular, those parts of the network are small in number, but still we're seeing a sustained reduction from 5 or 6 a year to 0 and 1.
Still, we don't have the numbers, the actual numbers of what those percentages are based on.
Yeah, sure. I can
and the
provide
other thing,
those numbers.
Was it or was it not? The reason that the speeds were decreased, that was a Wellington government directive at the time of the Labor government, and basically you followed suit and changed the speed limits here based on what they said. This is what we want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and now, how come it's such a hard process to actually go back the other way? We were never asked, to consult or anything when it was reduced.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. It is very clear that we did a consultation in 2022 when the changes were made. We went through a consultation exercise to allow a statement to be made at a meeting that's being publicly broadcast on live stream that there was no consultation is completely inaccurate. There was a consultation at the time. There were 192 submissions at that time in that 2022 consultation. There was a full exercise, just as there is a full exercise this time. I did notice, because of course our staff have given us the full report of what was on the Facebook and other electronic communication, that there were a number of members of the public who said there had been no original consultation. We do need to be very clear there was an original consultation. The other thing I think needs to be drawn very clearly to attention is that paragraph on page 78, which gives the very clear statement about the number of death and serious injury event accidents, because again, some of the feedback on Facebook, etc., was that there didn't seem to be any evidence of changes in the data. We clearly have that evidence. I almost feel that we should just about make a press statement to that effect. However, the main point is a consultation was done in 2022.
Yeah, no, that's
there
fair.
were 192 submissions. We've got 191 submissions this time, both full consultation exercises. So it just disturbs me to have inaccurate statements made about no consultation.
There was consultation. Alan?
Yeah, I was just going to say, but when the consultation was perhaps held at that time, I mean, I don't recollect it that well, but to be fair, it would have been a broad consultation, would it not? Not a street by street.
Yeah, look, I would not. Let's not get into discussion about it. I think to your point though, and it is a little bit, I've been reflecting on it, because the Gorge Road, and Darren will love this, it is the country road that takes me home. And if I
don't understand that.
well, you think about it.
Yeah, can you sing the tune so we can be familiar
Well,
with
if you come on Saturday night to the choir thing, you can. No, but I think about that road particularly from the eastern side of the township of Tisbury, and you know, there's no difference between that road all the way to Gorge Road. I mean, there's roads coming in and off it, there's vehicles, there's houses, that sort of thing. So, you know, and I think the point Alan's making is, you know, on reflection, some of the thought that's gone into these road changes, you know, could have been a little bit deeper in context to that very point. You know, that road is no different between the end of the Tisbury village and all the way to Gorge Road, and yet the speed limit just changed to 80 for some reason. You know, into Scott Street, into Rangi's Point, you know, it comes right in there, and there's probably there's more built up as you get past Tisbury into Scott Street. So I think what Alan's talking to, and it is something that sat with me and probably a lot of the other committee members, is, you know, what we're looking for, and it's one of the things I think we need to put a recommendation through to council on with this paper, is, you know, we need to probably go and consult on some of those ones, if it's Ototara Road, if it's Gorge Road, sooner rather than later, because, and with a more sort of pragmatic approach, that's my word, probably not the optimum word, as to actually how these speed limits apply in some of these areas, okay, accepting some of the other areas that are put up here, like to the one at Bainfield Road makes very good sense, given what you've said about the build-up there. So I just think we've got to be quite pragmatic, and our community's telling me, from what I've read, that that's what they want us to do through, you know, through this process, and we review it regularly and get pragmatic outcomes to eroding speed limits. So, Michael, do you want to talk to that?
Through yourself, Chair, I just want to remind Council that the information that's provided by staff in relation to the consultation is consistent across both the previous review and this review in relation to the detail and the roading requirements, etc. It is part of the requirements of doing the consultation on any road review. So I just wanted to call that out in relation to the previous one and this one. It is consistent in relation to the staff's information that provided through.
Okay, so I've got a few speakers now. That's good. I've woken you up. Tom, Mayor Clark, Evelyn, Pania, did I have a hand from you, or are you just rubbing your head?
I support the proposal that you just made about, you know, having a report about some of these roads. I mean, I think it is very easy to accept, and I think all of us would probably accept, that the slower you make the speed limit, the less likely there is to be serious crashes. I mean, that's obvious, right? I mean, I think what central government, the point the central government made a couple of years ago was that it has an economic impact. So that if you only look at those changes on the basis of, do they make the roads safer, then it's probably everybody would agree. You know, if cars travelled at 5 kilometres an hour, would be a lot less accidents. But what is the economic impact to that? So by only looking at one side of it, we don't pick up on that. Yeah. And I think what we get back from the community, and bear in mind that there's an overwhelming number of people who've said, please don't lower the speed limits on the two roads where we're proposing that, is just a sort of intuitive thing amongst the community that says, look, this actually has an impact on me. It takes me longer to get kids to school, I get to work later or whatever, and that's what we're not building in. And because it's very, very difficult to build it in, that's what we're not building in when we only look at it from a safety point of view.
Yeah, so we've got to be more balanced, Mayor Clark?
Just for Michael, so if we've had a review in 2022 and one now, 3 years later, is it reasonable seeing that the next review will be 2028? Once a triennium, is that what we're looking for?
Through yourself, Chair, that will depend in relation to the requirements that are coming through. I think you've heard today that potentially could be even one next year, but that will be on a needs basis in relation to that. But as indicated today, there could be one next year that they indicated.
So who decides that, Michael? Is that under our decision? We can say we would like to consult in a shorter time frame, i.e. not a 3-year cycle, or is it dictated to us by central government?
Through yourself, Chair, yes, council could. The next council could indicate to staff and give us direction that they're wanting a review. The advice back would be in relation to a couple of things, which would be about letting the things actually pan out so you can see how they're actually working, one item, but the other item is you do get consultation fatigue as well. So both those get taken into account, and that's why you end up with cycles in relation to the consultation, so you can actually get some numbers and statistics to actually see the trends as well.
But in the case of particularly with that Gorge Road, the overwhelming feedback through the submissions is they want to have a look at that, although they're unhappy with the current settings. So that might be the trigger for us to do a shorter term review.
Through yourself, Chair, that I believe from reading the room and listening to my team today, that is something that's been taken on board and they considered that.
Okay, thank you. Yvonne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the non-driver in the room, I walk, and
not imposing speed limits on walking.
There's a perceptible difference in some of the ways that drivers react when we try and manage speed. So one of the things I want to ask about was, it was a bit of a follow-up to Councillor Broad. Do we need to vary the signage, so a mixture of the upright signs and signs on the road, to keep people focused on what we're actually trying to indicate to them that they should be doing on some of these roads? Because I think what I see is, if I'm a passenger in a car, it varies from driver to driver, but some people take it for granted what they think the speed limit is. And it was interesting hearing the discussion about Curran Road and how cavalierly people talk about breaking the speed limit, which horrified me. I'm so law-abiding. It really frightened me, because whether we're right or wrong, the decisions were made trying to think of people's safety and the better well-being of the community. Do people get a little bit dependent on having the same kind of messaging, and should we be varying it with a mixture of upright signs and something on the road, and or is that distracting? Because I'm not a driver, so I don't understand.
Well, before you answer that, just like to make the point, and because you're not a driver, most modern cars have a speed identification on their dashboard and also sometimes on the windscreen, so you know it pops up. Increasingly, probably people are looking for that as opposed to that visual signage on the side of the road, I would suggest, but Grant, I'm interested in your view.
But that would not tell you what the legal speed is on the road, would it?
It's GPS. It's GPS.
Yeah. Only modern cars though, just not everyone's experience, just FYI.
Not the
67
V8.
Zephyr, but
not the V8.
So Alan, you'll have to upgrade.
My learning has not stopped, and I'm nearly 75. My learning has not stopped. I learnt something new today. However, the question I still have is, should we be mixing it up a little bit in how we are indicating? Would that focus people more if there were different ways of getting the messages?
Yeah, I think, I mean, at the outset, depends on the person, depends on the driver, and depends on the location. You'll have people that will just drive whatever speed they want to, wherever they want. You're always going to get that across a road network. From time to time, we'll come across sites where, for whatever reason, if it's a visual perception issue, people just don't pick up on the cues that we think they should pick up on and drive to a speed that's appropriate, or pay attention to signs. The classic example of that recently was was Bainfield Road, Mill Road North, Fairweather Road intersection, where we've actually undertaken quite a few changes to that intersection to make it more apparent, particularly from the side roads, that you're coming toward an intersection. We've had some pretty good results by undertaking the changes that we have. One of the key areas that, yes, you're right, I think that people need to be almost jolted awake to realise that they're transitioning from, say, a rural network to an urban network. Are the things like threshold treatments, where we introduce something on the side of the road, maybe it's your red painted threshold like you have in South City, saying, hey, there's something different's happening here, and you trigger the perception that you're entering a different area. So there's absolutely all of those tools are in our toolkit that we can use. I think it's where we deploy those, that's what we try and think about when we're thinking about making changes to the road. But also we do have to have a level of consistency across our network as well. So if someone's driving down the road and it feels and looks like it's another road on a network, the speed environment is going to be the same. Of course, the only real measure that we have to significantly decrease speeds on roads where perhaps there is an issue is either through enforcement or through vertical speed devices, so your speed humps, your speed platforms, and that sort of thing. There's enforcement. The police try very hard, but they can't be everywhere at once. And the implementation of speed management devices, so speed humps, needs to be thought about really hard in terms of where that's proposed, because it does have some downsides as well.
Just have one sort of follow-up, because there's been a bit of conversation today about the economic impact of slowing down traffic as opposed to the economic cost of crashes, especially where a life is taken. But have we any evidence from the likes of panel beaters and car companies and things like that about the impact of the reduction? Are they seeing fewer crash repairs, things like that? Do we look for that sort of data? Is it available? Is it something that we should be saying to the public, this is actually what it's also saving you in this particular, well, it's not good if you're a panel beater if there's less business, but if for the community as a whole, the reduction in crash impacts is not just about people, it's not just about how fast or slow you get to work, but it's also, what does it cost you if something does happen? What do you save if you drive to the conditions, if you drive to the rules?
Yeah, well, I think that would come through your insurance company.
So does somebody provide that data? That's really what my question is.
So my understanding would be that insurance companies aggregate that up around, the cost of crashes and also the likelihood of crashes, and then they reflect that through policies. So,
do they reflect it back to council?
We're not going to get into that. Pania.
I just want to really say I don't have a personal position on it, because I actually don't live on these streets, these roads. However, I do have access to them and I do drive them. So I just want to actually share, because there was quite a lot of submissions, and those people that actually live within those areas actually know the traffic and the impact that they have. So I quite deeply sway that way in that sense for that reason, because literally if a crash does happen, if a crash impact does happen, it will be on their doorstep, literally. I do agree with Councillor Board over there regarding the 60 to 80. What happened to 70? Because that was my mindset as well. It's a big jump when you're going from 60 to 80. You're automatically going to be putting your foot straight down and taking off. And I mean, just that in itself can exceed the speed limit quite quickly. and we know that. I think the other thing that Rodney had sort of raised this morning was around the gravel roads, and having 60 k's on a gravel road, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. If you've driven on gravel roads a lot, and some gravel roads are well kept, some are not well kept. I mean, I'm talking about roads that sit outside what we're talking about today, like a Maui. We're talking about Green Hills and everything like that have gravel roads, and I don't know where we get 60 from, because literally you got bends and there's no way that you could drive 60 k's on those roads. So when we're coming back to today and the decision around that, I'm more persuaded for those people that actually live within those neighbourhoods.
I think that's just, a view, not a question. Thank you. Okay, well, look, we'll move to the paper. Thanks, Rhiannon, Grant and Doug, for your efforts. So what I'm going to do is I'll look for someone to move the first rule 4 recommendations, which is receiving the report, the submissions, noting the social media and the hearings, and also noting within the hearings that Rodney presented and Richard presented, and the other ones did not present. So if I can have a move.
I'll move those.
Thank you, Tom.
Number 1 to 4.
Yeah, 1 to 4. Seconder. Thanks, Alex. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now, what I'm going to do with the agree, disagree pieces, I'm going to take them individually. So I'll do 5A, then 5B, then 5C, because I think it's important that people can say which of those they support or don't support. So, give a second for that. Righto. Can I have a mover to either agree or disagree with the change of 60 to 80 on Curran Road? Tom, second to Trish. Okay, all those.
What was the direction?
So the agree that Curran Road moves from 60 to 80. Okay. Yeah, show of hands. Yeah, we'll do a show of hands. All those in favour, raise your left hand. Against? Do you want that recorded?
Yeah, I do. And just make the statement that I made before that. Sorry?
Voted to move it up.
No, it's Nobby that voted against. Opposed. Yeah. Way go, Nobby.
The opposition is purely based on, I think, Curran Road should be 60, move up to 80, but unless we adjust Otataha Road as well, we'll increase the traffic down Curran Road, and that will impact the corner of Duns and Curran, especially at peak times. We will have issues there around traffic getting right down to about 10 or 20 k's to turn the corner. So,
sorry, Evelyn, did you oppose that too? Yeah, so you note that. Yeah. Evelyn's not voting. Okay, cool. Yeah, relative to A. Yep.
Well, so my question is obviously obviously it's been passed and it's been raised to 80k, there will be significant signage advising people travelling north on Curran Road, travelling south where they're meeting the adjoining crossroads, that you are joining. There's no sudden. I imagine there'll be heaps of warning, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, certainly, these recommendations, and we would treat them as if they were mini projects in and of themselves. So signage and markings would be the minimum that we do, and if we need to tweak things like intersections and that sort of thing as well, we'll be doing that to support the changes.
That's what I assumed, but I think you have to ask.
Yep. Yeah, good question. Okay, 5B. Can I have someone move that they agree with the change in speed from 80 kilometres to 60 kilometres an hour on Macquarie Street?
Wayne.
Leslie wants to move. Seconder? Seconder, okay. Do we have a mover and a seconder to... So in effect we're leaving it at 60, aren't we? Sorry. We're leaving it at 80 as it is.
Chair, is it useful to just specify at this point in that recommendation, just to really clarify that exact point? because it is not. It is no longer from the Chisney Street intersection. We need to be really clear.
Yeah,
it is from the end of the existing 50 zone.
Yes.
So
Which is about a quarter of the way up Macquarie Street, isn't it? Going east.
So if we could amend Resolution 5B
Yep.
to read Macquarie Street bracket, delete Chesney Street and replace that with from the existing end of the 50k zone and the rest to remain the same. Sorry. You're too good, Liz. You've transcribed. Let's leave it as is to Rockdale Road.
Chair, it might also help everyone's understanding if the reference on page 73 to the posted speed limit being 60 kilometres per hour was changed to 80 kilometres per hour. There seems to be some confusion about what the current speed limit is that we are proposing to possibly reduce.
So page 3
Page
of the
73.
or
the
page 3 of the
reference-
report.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The report, it should read 80 kilometres. That then makes sense of the proposed reduction from 80 to 60.
Excuse me, Chair, we really do need a map so we actually know what we're talking about rather than somewhere near there
Yeah.
and besides that and halfway down there. And
Yeah. So if you
sorry.
That's what I would have
have
thought
you,
would be a
you
good
can't bring a
idea.
map of it up.
Sure, yeah.
So if you think back to Rodney's presentation, so he indicated where the 50 zone ended and the proposal would start, and it was about a fifth to a quarter of the way along Macquarie Street on the east, and then travelling in an easterly direction. Yeah, so it was just near the egg farm.
And, yeah.
Just clarify for me, what's the speed on Rockdale Road at the end there of Macquarie Street?
It's Grant, I'll wait for you because you're the specialist. So I'm not
It's
gonna-
not 60, it's at least 80. It's
I
80,
mean,
isn't
I
it?
think
At
that's
least.
relevant, you know, I mean, you don't have it 80 if it's 60.
And
and
you're
the
doing
other
It's,
end.
it's 80, isn't it? Yeah,
It's 80.
it's 80. That's what,
80.
and that's what I'm saying about signage, is that they're reiterating that it is still 80 around that corner. Because Rockdale's 80 in my mind.
Rockdale Road's 80, is it?
What we're looking at is
Confirming.
50, change then to 60. Is that what the...
No. So
Give it
how are we
80
gonna
from Chesney Street to Rockdale Road.
if you've all got laptops, bring up Google Maps on your laptop and go to Macquarie Street. You're looking at the same grant, the Google Map.
What's this, Rockdale Road's 80k, yeah?
Oh, so Rockdale Road, south of Tramway Road, is 80k an hour.
Yep.
So it's 80k onto 80k.
Yeah, so
There's a
Macquarie
small
Street
section.
enters into an 80k zone. So that's that question answered. So in terms of where does the 50 end and the 60 start on Macquarie Street, which is the proposal? Can you?
Chicken farm.
Roundabout, yeah.
So the part before the farm is 50,
Help if I give a
after the, around just
Yeah,
before
we'll
the
just leave it
farm,
to Grant because
afterwards
just leave it to
is the
Grant.
piece that we're looking
Yeah,
to change.
just leave it to Grant.
So would it be helpful if I give a property address?
See?
Probably.
Yes, please.
Perfect.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I've got the map up.
So east of 324 Macquarie Street.
So we're talking about
It's 80 at the
50
moment.
and then 60.
No, 80.
Well, it says 60 on that.
That's wrong.
East of 6.
Yes. So just to be clear, that's a good question. So once we're out of the 50, what speed are we doing if we change it here?
So,
We're proposing to change to 60
Yes.
from 80, yeah.
yes, that's correct. Yep.
So you're going from a 50 to a 60 zone.
Then onto an 80 when you get to Rockdale Road. Yep.
Macquarie Street, you turn on to an 80.
Yep.
Yep.
80 at the moment from 324 Macquarie Street. From
So
50.
is everyone clear on that? What we're voting for? So we're voting to change it from 3 to 8. That's the address.
Oh, I just know. 324.
324 Macquarie Street, where the 50 zone ends, it goes to a 60 all the way along Macquarie Street to Rockdale Road.
Or leave it at 80 as it is.
Or leave it at 80. So if you are in agreement, we're moving from 50 to 60 all along Macquarie from the end of the 50. So can I have a mover for that? Leslie's going to move that, seconded by Ria. Okay, hands show all those in favour of that. Six. All those against? 1, 2, 3, 7, so that's defeated. So are we clear then we're staying at 80? Okay. Third one.
For yourself, Chair, just want to acknowledge that staff will take on board the feedback in relation to the maps. We do have a map in the consultation document, but just highlight that we would take on board when it's more specific about it. We'll add those maps in going forward.
And then C, Retreat Road, so McIver to Bainfield Road and Bainfield Road, Queens Drive to the new Inverary Drive intersection from 60 to 50. Move, Trish.
Grant,
Yo.
oh, sorry, if you're going to move that, I'd like to move an amendment.
I think I'll move an amendment to you until
Yeah,
we
yeah.
move it.
Yeah, but Trish
Hasn't
did.
been,
and
hasn't
So-
been seconded.
Yeah, it hasn't been seconded yet, so what's
Ria
the...
did.
No.
I had my hand up, but Darren did too.
So I didn't accept the seconder, so what's the amendment you'd like to make to C?
I would like to retain the 60k, but I would like us to definitely follow up on the additional signage, because it was really clear from the submissions and the fact that just the way that the road is there and driving around it, it does really quite visibly translates between quite an urban environment to what feels like you're driving in a rural environment, and therefore people just passively speed up.
So, I mean, the first piece is if you don't support the 50, you vote against it. So that's simple. We don't need amendment for that. And then I think either way, and we've talked about it and Rangi's raised it, Grant's indicated that whatever we do, we're going to make sure there's suitable signage so that people driving those roads know what the speed limit is. So I think simply vote for it or against it. I think don't need amendment. So Trish, I'm happy to go with your support of 60 to 50 and Darren seconded. So show of hands, all those in favour of moving from 60 to 50 on that road. All those against? 2, 4. So 50 and you'll take on board the signage question. Okay. Now, with the recommendations to council, I think we need to add A8, which reflects the fact on the feedback that we would like the staff to look to bring back a review of Otatara Road and also Gorge Road, which responds to the feedback received through the submissions. The only other one, and I'll let this go for a little bit of discussion on the feedback through the submission, was the Tiwai Road one. That came through quite strongly as well. So I'd be comfortable to put that in as well. So it would be Tiwai Road, Otatara Road and Gorge Road, that we would ask staff to come back to us with the new council to go through a process of consultation. Rhiannon, do you want to talk to that before we...
I think that is useful to provide an additional recommendation. I just would like to note that the advice contained within the report is that those roads align to the speed limit principles, so you may need to request a review of the speed limit principles at the same time if that's what you wish to do.
Yeah, so who's the person that answers that question around that? That's able to be done, isn't it?
I'm just suggesting you may wish to include it within your resolution.
But from your perspective, Grant, that happens. A council would ask the NZTA, Waka Kotahi, whoever they're called, that they would like to have a review of those speed conditions.
Yeah, that's correct. Essentially, we'd just be reviewing policy, isn't it?
Yes, those were set by this council.
Oh, right, okay. So it's within our jurisdiction, right, sorry. Okay. Righto, so let's word that, Liz. So it's 8. And it's the...
Need to move it for that.
We recommend that staff bring a paper back to committee or council. Directs the staff to bring a paper back to council to request the review of speed limits on need to signal it's between Tisbury and Waimatua.
Yeah, that'll be helpful if you want to specify
Gorge Road
exact locations. Thank you.
Between Tisbury and Waimatua. Otatara Road. Right, can I get...
Chair, we also need some reference to the speed limit principles, as Rhiannon has just pointed out, unless that includes limit to the speed limit principles.
Do you
we've got
require
a
that in
problem.
there, Rhiannon?
Maybe just add "and speed limit principles" at the end of that sentence.
Righto, can I have a move for the 3 recommendations? The council adopts the roading traffic bylaw, notifies NZTA of the updated road speed limits for National Speed Register and directs the Chief Executive bring a paper back re those roads. Barry, seconder. Thanks, Mayor Clark. Okay, all those in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Okay. Thank you very much for all your work on that, Grant and Doug and Rhiannon.
Thank you.
So can I have a mover and a seconder to move into public excluded? Tom, seconded Trish, and the reasons are outlined in the paper, which is to do with sensitive information. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.